And how you doing, everybody? Vasu Vaddiparty here with you on the Make the Money and Run podcast. Let's get this set up here. The Conversation with Yogi Roth is going to be on in a couple seconds here. Yogi Roth, the Pac-12 Network Analyst for the Pac-12, covers the Pac-12 for a lot of years. Former Pittsburgh wide receiver, USC graduate assistant. We'll make the connection here in a second as we get going here. Thanks to everybody on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. This is the Conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty. Our guest, Yogi Roth, will be on in a couple of seconds here. Yogi Roth, the network analyst for the Pac-12. We're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino, Silicon Valley's oldest British restaurant and pub. Since 1981, BritanniaArmsDeanza.com, 408-257-7262. Go in there and check it out. Football season starting now on last weekend as well this past weekend, college football, NCAA, coming up next weekend with week 1 over Labor Day weekend. The NFL preseason able to get going and finish up, and cuts will be made tomorrow, 2 weeks till the NFL. How about the college football scenario that took place over the weekend? Lots of games, 5 games over the weekend. Football, Illinois upset Nebraska. UCLA rolls on New Mexico State. UTEP rolled on New Mexico State. UCLA rolled on Hawaii. UTEP rolled on New Mexico State. San Jose State, my alma mater, beat Southern Utah 45-14, and Fresno State big over UConn. Let me give you a little preview on our guest, Yogi Roth. Yogi Roth is a Pac-12 Network Football Analyst. He's also been an assistant coach, a graduate assistant at USC, was a wide receiver in the early 2000s with the University of Pittsburgh. Among his teammates was Larry Fitzgerald, and it was an interesting time. He's from Pennsylvania. He moved out here to be part of the USC graduate staff, kind of shifted in career change. Now he's a filmmaker. He also has an Emmy nominated film called Elite 11 that documents the trials and tribulations of 11 high school quarterbacks, and he followed them both on and off the field and was able to get going here in terms of an Emmy nomination. With that, he's got a new show coming up on the Pac-12 Network called The Factory. We'll talk about that as well. He's also been host of The Drive, and he's a big-time game analyst for the Pac-12 Network with college football starting this week and all the changes going on in the NCAA. We'll have Yogi Roth on. All right, let's take 30 seconds here. Let's see if we can make the connection here to him, see if we get back. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. This is a conversation with our guest, Yogi Roth. We'll get the hookup going. We'll come back from break, and we'll be right there. All right, back at you in 30. All right, welcome back to Conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty. My guest, Yogi Roth, a Pac-12 Network Analyst for a number of years now, was a wide receiver at University of Pittsburgh and also a graduate assistant at USC. He has a corporation with former USC coach Pete Carroll. It's called Win Forever, about corporate leadership and bringing out the best in your potential, not only for corporate leaders, but also the staffs and employees of all the corporate. So he's venturing out past the field into the world of business. He shifted into the broadcasting world. He's hosted all the Pac-12 Network, some of the Pac-12 Network shows, including The Drive. He's going to start a new show called The Factory this fall, and with all the changes in 2021, he's a man that's adaptable and flexible. We've never met until today. Yogi Roth, it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking about Pac-12 football and anything else.
All right. Well, Pac-12 football, we will get to Pac-12 football. You have a new commissioner with George Kliavkoff taking over for Larry Scott. I have not met the man yet. I do some of the Pac-12 stuff for the other network, so I'm kind of periphery with Pac-12. You guys are more involved with it as well, too. So let's get to it right away. Let's get the plug in. Pac-12 Network college football analyst, host of the new show, The Factory. Tell us about The Factory and what makes it different than the other shows you've done.
Yeah, it's the It Factory. So I think I probably mistexted you. Okay. The It Factory. So the whole goal is to dive into the It Factor, right? Which I think is the most overused and undefinable phrase in sport, but you know it when you see it. You can feel it in a locker room. You could feel it when you're talking to an athlete. And I want to unearth that with our guests. So it's going to be all current Pac-12 football players, past alums, notable names in college football. And we're going to take the helmet off and dive into their story. So episode 1 is Keaton Slovis. It comes out next Monday. We've got Kayvon Thibodeau. He comes out the week after that. Thomas Booker, Britton Covey. You know the names in this league. And I can't wait. It's 40 episodes in season 1. And what's fun for me is it's really a combination of everything I've ever done. It's going to live on Pac-12 Insider, which is our really cool free network for anybody who wants to watch it. It'll be on every social channel, and it'll be on my podcast platform as well. I'll change the name of that if you subscribe to it already, and we'll just dive in and hopefully share and inspire some people with the stories of these young men.
All right. So in your history of playing and broadcasting and following the Pac-12 Network and also doing other shows such as The Drive, what is the it factor that you found, or is that what you're still searching for? Will we ever find out?
Yeah, for me, I feel like I can define it. Years ago, I did a documentary titled "Welcome to the It Factory," and it was on the Elite 11 quarterbacks. You could check it out on YouTube. We did it with Bleacher Report. So I went around the country and interviewed coaches like Pete Carroll and players like Russell Wilson, and just esteemed people, Ron Rivera, that have been around those that have the it factor. And where we netted out at the Elite 11 with Trent Dilfer, myself, and our staff was that it's defined as the following. When you walk into a room, people can feel your presence. Anybody can have that, positive or negative. But the back end of our definition is they can feel your presence and you make everybody better. You uplift them. And I really think that's it. So whether you're a quiet leader like Davis Mills was at Stanford, whether you're an outgoing leader like Drake Jackson at USC, for instance, it doesn't really matter. They come in all different shapes and sizes and personality traits. But ultimately, when you walk into the room, your presence is felt, your intensity is felt, your compassion is felt, your EQ is felt, and you make everyone around you better. And I think that, to me, is how I define it. And it's fun to dive into it with everybody because everyone defines it differently, especially when you're 18 to 22. It's different than how Teddy Bruschi or Troy Aikman define it compared to a Dorian Thompson-Robinson or Gunnar Cruz at Arizona, respectively. And that's gonna be the fun part about this content.
So let's capsulize that in terms of the it factor. I played through college a little bit, so I kind of get what you're saying here. But for the layman or the fans out there, the it factor, let's pretend that we're still playing or we're running a corporation or something like this in terms of the it factor. To me, the it factor is somebody that, especially in team sports, makes their team and teammates better. They have the drive, they have the passion, and that just radiates or resonates to everybody else on the roster. Am I in the ballpark there?
Yeah, totally, man. You've been around it. You can tell.
Wow, I fake it anyway, so we'll see how it goes. This is a conversation with Vasu Vaddiparty, Yogi Roth, our guest, Pac-12 Network Analyst. College football started this last weekend. We had UCLA play Hawaii. They blew them out. They've got a big game against USC. Against LSU this weekend. I'm thinking about USC because my alma mater is going down to LA this weekend. Go easy on them. I know you're a graduate assistant, even though you're a Pitt alumni. What's your take on the Pac-12 going in? I mean, we've had such a rough 16 months. You're going to have fans back. Everything's going to go, and you've got games. I'm sure I don't know what your first game is, but it's probably going to be as exciting as having the fans there, no matter who the opponents are.
Yeah, Vasu. I called 9 spring games, and I think the most fans we had at one was like 3,000, and it was awesome, right? And I can't wait to get to Sun Devil Stadium on Thursday. I fly out tomorrow, and that's my first game of the year. Southern Utah, Arizona State, and it's going to be a packed house. And then I fly right here for San Jose State against USC Saturday afternoon, a game that I'm sure you'll be tuned into. I can't wait to watch those two teams compete. And I think when you look at the landscape of this league, we've got the most returning super seniors among any conference in the country. We're like Gonzaga in basketball. I think there's a lot of teams in our league like that with a bunch of vets, guys that have played a lot. They know how to win games. They know how you lose games. So I think you're going to see a lot of clean football this year. I think it'll be as competitive top to bottom as it's ever been, which might not bode great for the CFP and the current landscape that we're in. But I believe, write it down, we'll have the most players drafted in the history of this league. We just will. There's so many players. Arizona State has 14 players in my count that could get drafted this year. That's just one team, right? And I think you can go up and down this league and find so many players that have the opportunity to make it to the next level. So I'm stoked for this league. I cannot wait. You could throw me at any game. And I've done this for almost 15 years now, calling games, man. There's years where you're like, don't send me there. Because the team's not that good. I don't feel that with any of our teams this year.
It's been interesting to watch the Pac-12, and we'll hit the Pac-12 specifically in a second. But let's get to college football here. What an 18 months it's been through the pandemic. By the way, I hope you and yours have made it through that. Everyone's all good, and we've all come through this, and now we're both in California, so we've seen a lot of changes as it is. State of NCAA football, the power conferences, the potential alliances, the NILs. I mean, where do we go from here? Everything's coming up. I agree with players getting enumerated, getting paid a little bit because the universities are making money off of it. The power conferences are something new than you and I'm a little older than you. So this is all brand new in terms of the NCAA. And of course, we got a new commissioner in the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff.
Kliavkoff.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, I haven't met the man yet, so I'll get it better by the time I meet him. The new commissioner replacing Larry Scott. And part of the problem with Larry Scott that I've had, and I've had conversation with him, their office is right there by the ballpark in San Francisco. So I've been around him about a half a dozen times. I don't think he likes me because I keep saying get a direct TV deal because I can't get the Pac-12 network at home. And so that's part of the problem. I'm looking forward to seeing USC and San Jose State on Saturday, but I got to go somewhere to find it because the new TV contract, I don't know if it's coming up this year. I don't know if that's above your pay grade to find out what's going on about that. But what's your take on the new commissioner, having met him? I'm sure you've already met him.
Well, yeah, he's incredible. I think for the note on DirecTV, I don't think it's going to happen over the course of the next 3 years, but there's a lot of easy ways for you to go watch the games, right? You can go to pac-12.com and just go to how to watch. Okay. And there's a bunch of third-party over-the-top platforms that you get it free for the first month. You can bounce around for a bunch of different of them, so you don't have to pay. You know how to work the system, man. So I think that narrative is old, and I think it could be better, right? There's an answer to it. So if you want to watch our games, man, there's a way for you to go watch them. So I hope you find that out this weekend if you want to stay in the comforts of your own home. With that said, George Kliavkoff, I'm really excited about him and the era that he's leading us in currently, right? He came in day one on the job, NIL kicks off, right? A couple weeks in, and Texas OU depart the Big 12. Realignment discussion, the alliance, as we just saw last week, gets announced between the Pac-12, the ACC, and the Big Ten. A pretty hectic couple months. But what I've learned from him is that he can handle this, I don't say with ease, but with command. And if you look at where he's from and the rooms he's been in, it's not like he just came up in athletics. A lot of times we see that with people in his type of position. He came up in big business and big media, whether it was the MLB app that everyone copies now, or whether it was the launch of Hulu, which had dramatic success, or MGM and managing true alpha personalities. If we think coaches are big personalities, try sitting down with people and A-listers in Hollywood. So I think he walks into these rooms, these negotiating rooms, and he's got a great demeanor about him, a great presence, one where I feel so confident about our future. And if you look at the alliance and what they've done, granted, it's loose and people can knock on no contract, nothing signed. That to me is, again, it's a lazy take. It's kind of like DirecTV, because what these three conferences have done is that they've come together and said, we need to calm the waters, because what's going on in the SEC, what's going on in the Big 12, it upended college football. And it showed us the underbelly and the gross side of what college football is, which is big money, big media money. So I think the partnership among those three to say, you know what, let's get on the same page. Let's not go behind each other's backs. I think it's really smart. I think it's also need to be noted that all 5 current Power 5 commissioners meet once a week, just them on a Zoom. So it's not like it's 3 against 1 or 4 against 1 or whatever it may be. Everybody, I think, wants to see the game do well, but they have to basically represent their respective schools and the universities and the chancellors and presidents of those. And I think Commissioner Kliavkoff is going to do a phenomenal job. I think he already has. And I know our coaches and subsequent ADs, they're as confident and as bullish on our league as we've ever been. So we'll see how it shakes out, right? You got the playoff discussion coming up at the end of September. You've got our media rights coming up in 3 years. You've got conference games possibly going down to 8, matchups, cross-conference games against the ACC and Big Ten, respectively. And it's going to be really exciting. And I think for us in this, on the West Coast, it's a real positive where we're going and the page that we turned.
Our guest, Yogi Roth, on Vasu Vaddiparty, a conversation with Pac-12 Network College Football Analyst, host of the new show, The It Factor, former wide receiver at the University of Pittsburgh and a graduate assistant at USC. Also has a company called Win Forever with Pete Carroll, the former USC coach, now Seattle Seahawks coach as well. All right, let's get to the NILs a little bit, just because it's a topic. Lots of things have happened over the years from the days that you played. And like I said, I'm a little older than you, the college. Your payment is your scholarship. That's an old argument. to me. Players are getting money made off of them, especially the top players. Now the NILs are there. Are we going to be afraid that it's going to go way to the other end? Because who's to say that player number 53 is not going to make as much as the top quarterback, or even in different conferences, they're not going to get as much as the SEC. And I don't want to pick on the SEC, but they are the conference right now from that standpoint. So what's your take on NILs in terms of how it's going to work? I think it's good, but I don't want to see like anything else. I don't want to see it go too far to the other end where people are complaining about it on that end.
Yeah, well, it's gonna, we know that. I think
we know that, but that's a factor.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest. Let's start from jump. I love it. I'm a huge fan of NIL. I think it's the right thing to do. When I played, if you got on TV, it was a big deal. Every game's on television now. The amount of money is crazy. What coaches are getting paid is out of control. All right. I was talking to a colleague earlier today, and coaches would coach for a good salary. They don't need $5, $7, $9 million a year to coach football, right? But that's just where we are, because that's what the industry has done. But the player has continued to get the same amount in his full scholarship. The stipend has grown. I think the stipend should grow even more. I think that could have quelled some of the NIL dialogue as it got really heated. But what did we find out? We found out that, one, players have a voice and have platforms and should be able to utilize them. I fully agree with that. We've also found out that there's no consensus in terms of leadership around constructs around this. That's the big hole that needs to change. That's what we need to have some sort of organization around. Here's the idea. As a former walk-on, nothing lit me up, Vasu, more than when BYU and a sponsor gave every walk-on a full scholarship. And after I digested that amazing sentiment, nothing made me more concerned about the game than someone awarding everyone on the team a full scholarship. Because now what's going to stop me from loading up my roster at one of the big four, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State and Oklahoma, those four, to me, they could have 105 on the team and 105 scholarship athletes. And now what are we doing? Right. So I'm worried about that side of this thing. It's going to be real when you look at the value of a starting quarterback in the market and the value of Alabama's starting quarterback in the market. Right. Nick Saban said it. Bryce Young, I love Bryce. I've known him since he was in high school. Hasn't played a snap. Should he be commanding all that money? I don't know. If he can make it, great. But is it great for where we are? Again, around the game and constructs, I think we need to create some of those. I look forward to some sort of leadership. I've always felt we needed an office for college football, and not one that has NCAA on it, but one that says D1, Power 5, FCS, D2, and D3. I don't care if it's 3 floors, but someone to have oversight and true understanding of what's going on, because there's so many moving parts and so many inequities in college football right now. But for NIL, I'm all for it. I advise a lot of athletes on it. My advice to them is simple. If you need the short money, take it. If you don't, develop a plan for your brand and for your desires and curiosities that can help you when your career is over, and begin building that now.
That's a great idea. I mean, I totally agree with that, and everything that you just said makes total sense in terms of the NILs. I don't think college athletes they all grew up in team atmospheres, so I don't think one guy is going to be jealous of another guy like they do in the movies where the lineman doesn't block for the quarterback last night. In fact, I just watched Varsity Blues last night because I was getting fired up. Yeah, it was so good. And you know what? Some of that's true, but a little bit all Hollywood. You're a filmmaker. You know how that goes. But it's just a different scenario, and I just don't want to see it go the other way. By the way, thanks to everybody on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. If you got any questions, any comments you want to make, send them out to me. We'll keep Yogi on for about 10 more minutes here. We'll talk a little more college football. I just want to get the overall scope. All right, let's hit the Power 5 conferences. I do another show. It's based on wagering. I know it's not a hot topic in the Pac-12 offices, but you know what? Wagering is part of the industry nowadays, and these are the futures for the top 4 teams. These are the teams that are under plus 1,000 going into it, and I don't think there's any surprise. Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State. Forget the odds there, but these are the top 5 teams that are there in terms of championship mentality, and everybody else is kind of in the second tier. Other than Alabama, I mean, Clemson's very good. Uyagalelele, by the way, I saw his Dr. Pepper commercial the other day as well, too. Georgia, awesome. Ohio State at plus 600. They're even there. Georgia's very good with JT Daniels over there. And Ohio State, I have ties to Ohio State. My dad went to Ohio State. And then Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, how you doing, Big 12? In a few years, you're going to lose them. And then what do you do? And I heard the Pac-12 say they're not going to poach anybody yet, but the alliances are still in place. So let's take a look at college football for 2021 and the overall Power 5 conferences. And if you want to throw in a Mountain West, for my sake or any other conference, feel free to do so.
I love it. I'm just really excited. I think preseason predictions this year are bogus. And I'll say that because, almost as bogus as they were last year.
I can't have you on my other show then.
Well, I just think what's fun about it is that I think we're going to be way off, right? Like UCLA had 2 votes in the AP top 25. 2 votes. Right. And at least for me, I've been around them probably more than anybody in the country. And I predicted them to win the South. So like I could just go to like what has COVID allowed people to do with their own eyes is not see a lot, right? Whether maybe we just saw TV copies, we didn't see full schedule last year, spring games maybe we saw, but teams were vanilla. Like I just think there's so many unknowns to who is who and what is what this year. I'm looking forward to watching though Iowa State. There's somebody I'm really excited about. I can't wait to watch CJ Stroud at Ohio State play Oregon. I've known CJ since he was really a small recruit, right? He had Cal on him, and that was about it. Came to Elite 11 and exploded, won the MVP over Bryce Young, over some of the more talented guys in the country. And now he's going to start at one of the more dominant programs in recent history in college football. So there's some of those predictions we'll net out. I think the rosters of the teams that you referenced off the top, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Bama are loaded. Georgia as well with JT. But I still think that there's so many factors that we're unaware of, right? Look at the portal. How do teams gel and blend? All these new quarterbacks. I saw the early Heisman favorites. I almost threw up. These guys haven't played. DJ played 1 game. Like, I just think it's unfair to them to put that up. You go back to 2001, I think there's only 1 quarterback who was a preseason favorite to win the Heisman that won it. 1, and it was Leinart. Think about it. Right. So what do we do when we put these guys at the top? All we do is start chipping away at them. They're holes in their armor. We start chipping away and tinkering at it. And I've just never been one of those guys. And I think the same is going to be happening with these teams. I think it'll be over-dramatized this year when one of those teams that you referenced loses. Like, what happens if Clemson gets housed? What if Georgia gets rolled in their opener? Right? Like, what does that do? Like, do we not know anything, or do we not know anything right now? Yes, I think there's a lot of that goes on with this year based on not having much of a 2020 to truly study and evaluate.
Yogi Roth, our guest, Pac-12 Network College Football Analyst, host of the new show, The It Factor. Got it correct there, right there. The It Factor.
Factory.
It Factory. I'll get it right here. We'll make sure we put it out on the Facebook pages. The It Factory. Cool. We all know what it's about. We all have ideas of what it's about. But in terms of the Pac-12, let's look at the Power 5 conferences. This is what I put out there in the Power 5 conferences. I think Clemson will win the ACC, but don't be surprised about UNC. Big Ten, Ohio State. I really like Penn State more than the other competitors that they have there. Oklahoma in the Big 12. Iowa State, you referenced Brock Purdy. They're a very senior-laden team. The SEC, Alabama. I mean, who's going to go against Alabama right now? And Georgia's going to have a tough time with them, obviously. But right now, Alabama seems to be the top of the class. But I'm not underestimating Georgia at all. And you mentioned the game that they have this weekend. And, of course, in our conference, Oregon seems to me still to be the top. And I put 2 teams down there because I think UCLA and USC are pretty much on equal par right now. Obviously, I've seen UCLA now. They played 1 game. It was Hawaii. But I guess we'll know more after LSU this week. We'll know more about USC after San Jose State. I'm just kidding. But anyway, the funny part about this is USC and UCLA, I think, are pretty much even, and they're right there with Oregon. And one bad Saturday, and they can end up right there at the top. So your take on the Power 5 conferences. Am I off base here on these teams?
No, I think it's fair. Clemson and Carolina don't play each other, which is kind of cool, just because hopefully they play each other in the title game.
Right.
Ohio State. For sure. Penn State, it'd be fun to watch. ACC, don't count out Pitt. Come on now. I'll never count them out. I'm with you in the Big 12. I look forward to watching that league and how teams play Texas and OU. I think it's going to be really interesting dynamic.
They're bailing on them. It's going to be their Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'd like to see Iowa State come out of that league. Spencer Rattler always is a gifted player. Bama, I'm with you. Georgia, talented. LSU's got talent. Can't wait to see them this weekend against the Bruins. I think in the Pac, because I know it so well, I look at the North, and I wouldn't be shocked if Stanford was in that dialogue or Washington. Washington was undefeated last year, right? And then COVID kind of ended there. It was such a weird year for them. I think they're not getting the benefit of the doubt, which is fair with the new head coach, only 4 games under his belt, and Jimmy Lake.
Right.
But this defense is really impressive. Trent McDuffie's the best corner on the West Coast. I think he's a top 3 guy in the country. He'll be a first-round draft pick. I love their run game. They did well in the portal. I think they have some receivers that'll shock people. And Cade Otton, you could argue, he's the best tight end in the country. He returns for another season, and they bring back their entire offensive line. So I like UW. I like their schedule, how it lays out. In the South, and then you got to talk Utah. You know, they bring in a quarterback in Charlie Brewer. He threw for 9,700 yards and 65 tugs at Baylor, and it seems like he's back healthy. I can't wait to watch him play. Their defense, they benefited the most from a COVID year because they were so young, and their schedule lines out beautifully. You know, they got to come to LA and play SC. They haven't beaten them in, I don't say, like 70 years in Los Angeles. So it'll be a challenge, but I like them. And ASU. I got ASU's opener on Thursday. They, as I referenced earlier, they got 14 NFL players, I think, on their roster. And Jaden Daniels will make a boatload of noise this year. And this is a team with a major chip on the shoulder based on the allegations that are presented against them regarding recruiting. So I think the Pac-12's probably got, you know, Big 12's got great storylines because of teams departing, but the Pac-12 has such competitive storylines compared to the other leagues.
No doubt about it. I'm looking forward to everything that's going on with the Pac-12 as well, too. You and I cover the conference closely. You're there. You're internal. You're right there amongst everything else. Former University of Pittsburgh wide receiver, grew up in Pennsylvania, assistant coach, graduate assistant coach at USC, and then all of a sudden he pivoted careers. What were you? What did I read that you were going to go into? What was your original plan of action before you went into being a documentarian and a media person? You weren't going to be a lawyer, were you?
You know, when I was in college, I always tell this to college kids, I had a list of 50 things I wanted to do, and one of them was be a lawyer. One was be a politician. I don't think either one of those are going to happen. I took my LSATs and bombed them. So I'm done with that. And I've really netted out on trying to seek and uncover humanity in sports. And I think when I put the headset on Thursday and get in Sun Devil Stadium, I'm going to compete like hell with Ted Robinson, a guy who changed my life, my partner in the booth, and our production crew with Michael Molinari. We're going to try to get after it and tell as many stories within the game and XO, as well as under the helmet and the personal side, the humanity side of these young men. And I can't wait to do it. And I really think my job is to celebrate the game and coach the viewer and compete like hell to tell as many stories as I can all season long, man. And I cannot wait to get going. I will make arguments among the CFP. I will argue against every pundit on other networks that don't live on the West Coast and don't know squat about our league. I will get my lawyer on in that regard, but I don't see myself going to school again.
So Yogi Roth, our guest here, is a filmmaker as well, the Emmy Nominated Elite 11. I highly recommend it, detailing the on and off field journeys of high school quarterbacks. How much has it changed in your view? Because you're around it and you see all the academies and all the passing camps and everything that goes on for high school kids now. I watched the Peyton Manning interview the other day. In terms of his nephew, Arch Manning, and how early that they were going after him in terms of colleges, to the point of they're really talking to kids at freshman level now in high school, whereas I don't think kids are enjoying their high school years as much as they should be based on the pressures of recruiting and the pressures of making a decision and everything that goes into it. What have you seen? How have you seen the shift, and how can we go back to let kids have fun without the pressure of recruiting and these camps and everything that says, oh, you're really good, and here we are moving forward without even them taking a snap, let alone in college, let alone in high school, Yogi?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get any better, and I don't think that it's changed that much, to be honest with you. Tate Martell, Max Brown, they're both offered in 8th grade and put on the map. And good young men. Max is going to call games for the network this year on the Pac-12. Tate's now at UNLV, his 3rd school. I just see it as such a negative because of the attention that comes from the fan bases, the vitriol that comes when they don't continue to grow, right? I remember Ricky Town and Josh Rosen in the same class, and Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was 3-star recruit at the time. One of them starting in the NFL. 2 of them are on NFL rosters. 1 never played in college, right? So it's such an inexact science. I don't think it's ever going to end. And so much of recruiting is about buzz, right? Like you see it all the time when a new head coach comes on. For the most part, Chip was the one guy in recent history that didn't do this. Chris Peterson didn't do this. But most coaches come in and offer a boatload of dudes because they want to get their name in the recruiting cycle on social media, blessed and thankful for another offer from so-and-so, from X school, from Y school. And it just gets the buzz around the program going. And you get in on a kid like Arch Manning, right? You're here in his top 10, you're in his top 15, you're in his top 5.
Right.
It just elevates you. So it's unfortunate, Vasu, but it's part of the game. It's part of the deal. So what can we do? At Elite 11, we can arm these guys with the EQ necessary, right? Emotional intelligence, loosely defined as having the capacity to deal with your thoughts and the thoughts of others with empathy. We can give them tools to deal with the anxiety, at times the depression, the social media. So that's the job. That's the burden that I love to have on my shoulders when I meet with the top kids in the country every summer. I've done it for 13, 14 years. I love that part of it because if they're going to talk to anybody, I want to talk to our staff because it's really hard and challenging waters to navigate when you're that young. So that's why we do what we do. But yeah, there's a lot of sharks in that shark tank around quarterbacks and young quarterbacks. And you got to just try to shrink your circle and not lose what I call your wonderment and the joy that you have from playing the game.
Now kids are seeing what the NILs are doing for the college kids as well too. Do you think in your Elite 11s, and I don't know much about it, I've done a little bit of reading on it, and Ted's talked to me about it a little bit of what you've done with that. Congratulations on that, by the way. It seems like a very, very outstanding program for these young men. Do you focus on your Elite 11 in terms of these kids? Because they all have talent. Physical talent is all there. How much, if you had to divide it in percentages, how much of the mental aspect do you give these kids versus the physical aspect of the coaching on the field versus the coaching off the field? Is it 50-50, or are you really worried about these kids as they're mentally developing further into their high school careers and going into colleges and maybe pro aspirations in terms of that, their mental aspect and their mental outlook?
Yeah, I'd love you to ask a former Elite 11 quarterback that same question. Because I think
anytime. Yeah, I'll take them on anytime.
Well, I think what they would say is, no matter where they are in their career, retired in the NFL and college, they've all said to me, wow, that experience was the most in-depth experience I've ever had off the field. Here's an example. Years ago, we were at the Cowboys practice facility pre-COVID. And before our kids even threw a football, they heard from Brenda Tracy, who was a survivor of a gang rape. They heard from a sports psychologist. They heard talks from the coaching staff around emotional intelligence. They got bombarded with thoughts off the field before they even threw a spiral. We think it's that important, and it's on purpose the way that we train and teach in that regard. So it's probably 70-30 off the field versus on it. We know they can spin it, right? We try to pour into them and give them tools of how to watch film, how to read defenses, how to operate in highly alpha competitive environments, which is the Elite 11. But you got to give them the tools and train them, right? Sure. You could do 3 things. You could talk about anything, right? Everybody does that. You can test it. We all do that on game day, and you can train it. Ask whoever you interview next as a coach, hey, what are you doing? You talking about it? You testing it? You training it? And how much are you training it? Especially the mental skills. And I think for us at Elite 11, it's a small snapshot, man. We're not the best in the world at it, but I think we are in the quarterback space. And in the 5 days we get, or the 120 hours we get with them, or the 80 hours we get pending the year, we pour into them in a way that is very unique to amateur athletics at a high level.
Well, I think you do a great job with it. As you know, Ted and I have known each other for a long time. He talks very highly about you, and he and I have had very many conversations in terms of mental health as far as it goes. So it's a great deal going on with what you got going, and I appreciate the fact that you're doing the mental aspect with it. All right, we're sponsored by the Britannia Arms of Cupertino. Check them out when you come up to the Bay Area. College football and NFL starting now. Get over there on Saturdays and Sundays. Enjoy all the British libations and British food you have. Check them out at BritanniaArmsDeanza.com. When you come up to the Bay Area, I'm going to take you to Cupertino. We'll go have an adult beverage and go talk mental health and mental challenges and watch a little football being spun. I appreciate the time. The It Factory starts this fall. Yogi Roth, the Pac-12 Network College Football Analyst, the It Factory. He's hosted the Drive before. He has the Elite 11 camps. He does a great job on TV. He's been doing this for 14, 15 years now. On the broadcasting side, you can catch him with Ted Robinson on most weeks. I don't think you have Ted this week, right? He's in.
I do. I got him twice. He's flying in from New York and then flying back out.
Well, there you go. All right.
That's awesome, man. Come on.
So you have San Jose State. So you have San Jose State at USC with him on Saturday then?
Yep. Yeah. And Arizona State on Thursday with him. Yeah.
All right. Well, if I make it down to LSU, UCLA for the other network, I may stop by and say hi at USC on the way to see my alma mater a little bit. But it's great to have you. Nice to meet you for the first time. I really appreciate the time. Let's do this again. Let's have deeper conversation, all this stuff. I like the way your mind works in terms of all this, and let's do it again real soon. All right.
You got it, brother. Talk to you soon. Peace.
All right, Yogi. I appreciate it. Yogi Roth, Pac-12 Network College Football Analyst, host of the new show, The It Factory. We appreciate his time as well. All right, coming up on the Make the Money and Run podcast, we're going to exit this broadcast, a conversation with Yogi Roth. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty. We're going to end this right now. In about 60 seconds, we're going to come back with the Make the Money and Run podcast as we preview the weekend in review, the week coming up in Major League Baseball. We talked NCAA football. We talked NFL preseason a little bit. We'll get into that a little bit. But 5 weeks left in Major League Baseball. We've got odds going on. We've got a baseball game going on right now in Detroit. The Twins lead the Tigers 3-2. I'm Vasu Vaddiparty, a conversation with Yogi Roth of the Pac-12 Network. Thank you very much to everybody on Facebook. Again, thank you very much on YouTube. Please download and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate the support. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you in about 2 minutes on the Make the Money and Run podcast.